the table here. So what did you get for this, Kendall? Uh-huh. 0. Now, if you guys were to graph that, I'm going to make my graph kind of tiny at the top here, but 4, 2 is the first point we're going to graph. So over 4 and up 2 would be like right about there. And then 1, 1 would be here. And then 0, 0 would be here. So you should have had something that looked like that. Okay, now it does keep going, so I'm going to go ahead and put an arrow on that side. But it actually doesn't keep going here. Now the reason for that is because I can't plug negatives in. Why can't I plug in a negative?
Because then it would be imaginary numbers.
Yeah, exactly. You can't plug in negatives to a square root, otherwise you get imaginary numbers, which you can't graph. So we're going to leave it there. So square root functions look like this. They stop at this point because after that you get negatives, which graphs don't work with negatives. So let's go ahead and do the next one over there. We'll talk to Augustine. Augustine, what did you get for your y values over here? Okay. Let's see if maybe David did. David, did you get to that one? And Gabby, did you get to that one?
Yeah.
What did you get?
-2.
Uh-huh.
-1.
Uh-huh.
0, 1, and 2.
Good. And then if we go through and graph that, now you guys will notice that I can plug in negatives to a cube root, right? Because cube roots do have, you can take cube roots of negative numbers. You get negative answers. All right, so -8, -2 is my first one. So -8, -2 would be about here. Then -1, -1 would be here. 0, 0 would be here. 1, 1. And then 8, 2.
Oh, so it's like a, what are those called?
Yeah, a little bit. Now, first of all, I want you guys to notice this. Look at this half. Doesn't that kind of look the same thing as that? But the difference is, since they can be negative, it also has a tail over there. Okay? So that's pretty much what we're looking at there. So that's what cube root functions look like. That's what square root functions look like. And we're going to begin our lesson here. So here's our title and objective. We're going to learn how to graph square and cube root functions today. So go ahead and title up your notes. Okay, here we go. Today we're going to learn how to graph square root, cube root functions. So let's begin.
My charger, my decision.
So you know that technically with any function, you can always just plug in numbers, get dots, and connect the dots. The problem is that's tedious, or if you don't pick the right numbers to plug in, then you don't get the entire picture you need to be seeing. So we always come up with other ways to graph, which usually involves our transformations, translations, and stretches and reflections and things like that. And that's what we're going to be looking at here. So square root functions look like this, right? But, yeah, but I'm going to add a few more things to it, okay? Sometimes you'll have a number in front here. Sometimes you'll have a number in front here. And you could have a number here and here. And all of those things...
I'm writing a pen.
Okay,
That does
I'll
not
wait.
look like my brain is going to correspond.
You say that every day, John.
Yesterday I meant it, and probably today too. You know why? Because you won't let me go get food.
We need to get you some duct tape. I got some duct tape.
I'm hungry.
Why are you getting him
All right.
Hey, Mr. Baby.
Kids have food,
Kids are happy. Why are you scratching your leg with your pen? Yo, Mr. Baby.
It works. Because it is like that. It is like that. It's just transformations is all it is, you know. So I'll show you. All right, here we go. So as you guys know, John, when we did square root, or I'm glad you brought that up. So somebody brought up, this looks like the vertex form for quadratics. And that's because it's the same principle. The idea is, on quadratics, we called this our vertex, right? But for us, I'm gonna call it the starting point because a square root function doesn't really have a vertex. It has that starting point where it starts starts to go over. So I'm gonna call it the starting point. But the same rules apply. Whatever number's here, you take the opposite sign of it. We've always done that. And then whatever number's here, you keep it the same. Okay? Now these two numbers here are going to play some important roles for us. Starting point. If this number here is positive, then our graph's going to go up. Okay? Just like it did on our warm-up. Remember how it went up a little bit? But if it's negative, you guys goes up.
If it's negative, it goes down.
That's right. You guys remember how if you put a negative in front of your function, it flips it upside down, right? So if I flip it upside down, it will go down.
And if you put 0, does it go straight?
Yeah, but we won't have that.
Why not?
Because at that point, it wouldn't be a square root anymore. All right, but this one affects something else. Do you guys remember what happens when you put a negative on the inside? It flips it not upside down, but it flips it sideways. So usually, if that number's positive, which way did my graph go before, left or right? It went up and to the right. So if this is a positive number in front of your x, then it's going to go right. But if it's negative, guess what? Goes left. So you're always going to be going in two directions. You know, it's either up or down, and then it's also left or right. One of those. So you're going to pick one on each one. But that's it. So basically, so long as you know the shape of a square root function, it has a starting point, and then it goes either up and right, up and left, down and right, one of those two combos. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring this to life a little bit with a couple of practice problems here.
The numbers pretty much?
Yep. Can I proceed? No? So guys, the first thing you're going to do when you're trying to graph a square root function.
You're going to find your starting point.
That's right.
-2 and -5.
So -2 and -5 is correct. Remember, you change this sign here. So it's a negative. That one does not change, so it's -5. And that's my starting point. After that, these two numbers tell us which way to go. Now, since this is positive, which way do I go? And since this is negative, which way do I go? What is it? Left. So I'm going to start at this point, and then I'm going to go up and left with that square root shape. So check it out. Ready? So start at -2, -5.
How is it 2 negative?
You change the sign.
Yeah, do you not pay attention?
All right, so there's my starting point. -2, -5. Now, you could go up and left in a lot of ways. So at this point, I just need you to remember what a square root function looks like. It looks like half of a U shape on its side. So it's like this. It's up and left. There you go. That's your square root function.
Touch the axis pretty much. That's the lean in the way that touch the axis.
I don't think that's necessary.
Shut up, Eric. What are you talking about? I know what you're talking about.
That's harassment.
Up and left. Okay? Let's do another one.
And you guys
Hang on.
Let's call this part B. Y equals negative square root of x minus 1. Let's just do that one. Nice and simple. Negative square root of x minus. How much do you go up? It doesn't matter. We're just kind of getting a rough sketch of what it would look like. All I care about is, did you get the right starting point and did you get the right direction?
I mean, for that one, we don't know.
Would it be
For why.
You're right. So we're missing something. What?
We would replace it with 0 if we go up or down.
Okay. Okay, so when you're missing either the H or the K, you're going to put a 0 there in its place. All right? So my starting point in this case would be 1, 0. And this tells me I'm going which way?
Left. Oh, my bad. Down.
down, and then this number in front is just a 1. So you can think of that as a positive 1. That's going to go right. So I'm starting at 1, 0. And I'm going to be going down and right with my square root shape. Okay? So down and right would look something like that. Okay?
That reminds me of her. It doesn't matter right now.
Any other questions? I want to do one more with you guys just to make sure we got it.
Is this it? Or is there more?
I'm going to do cube roots after this one.
Wait. It's really late.
No, these are the only two I have.
Do you need more or is that good? Are you good there, Rowan? Can you see it? All you need? Okay. All right, part C. Okay, go ahead and write down example C here, please. 1C. Our third one. Yeah.
Okay, wait. So that one is going to be.
It's still going
Go
up
to
to
zero?
0.
Oh, well, one half
Zero
every
to the
well,
X
if it's one half, one to go
plus zero.
whatever. So like for that one, if it's positive, one to go up, one plus 3.
Not really. All we're gonna look at is the sign, whether it's positive or negative.
Does
Okay.
it be zero?
You're right. So, John, I need you to stop shouting out, buddy, because it's really disruptive now. Okay, so here we go. In this particular problem, we are missing the h. That's the number next to the x. So once again, when you're missing an h or a k, there's 0. So I'm going to rewrite it so it's a little bit easier to see. It doesn't matter because it's 0. Whether it's positive or negative, it's going to be the same. Sure, that would be fine. All right, so now 0 here, 5 there. They're both positive. So this one means I'm going to go up, and this one means I'm going to go right. So starting from the point 0, 5, which is up here, I'm going to go up and to the right. And there's my square root function. Okay? That's pretty much it.
Wait, okay. Can you explain to me again really quickly which one's the one that determines if you go up or down?
That's the number in front of the square root, or
Outside the
If you
radical.
go right or left of the x.
is the one right in front of the x, inside the square root.
And if there's nothing in front of the x.
Then it's a positive one. Any other questions? Okay.
I'm gonna write that.
I'm going to throw a couple practices at you.
So positive.
Were those good questions?
Yeah, they were.
Does it get like a little more? Or is it
No,
decimals?
no, this is it. I mean, there's really not much more to today than that. I mean, we're going to talk about cube roots, but you'll see it's pretty much the same thing. Yep, this is student practice 1. So. I guess I'll leave that one off. That's too big. We don't need to go that big. I'm pointing that. There we go. All right, couple problems for you guys to work on. So guys, if you didn't write this down on your notes, this little chart that I put here, I would. Because I think that my instructions to you about going down and left and right, that was too vague. There's a lot of ways you could go down and right, for instance, right? I mean, I could do this. This is down and right. I could do this. That's down and right, right? But that's how you have to do it for square roots. So square roots are only going to look like one of these four things. So if you didn't write that little chart down, you might want to, because I found that as I came around, you guys knew everything what to do, but you're having trouble actually drawing the shape because I didn't give you that little chart. So hopefully that'll help you out a little bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin. So for our first one here, Henry, what's our starting point on number 1?
Where's the one? Negative.
So negative 5, 5 is here. And which of those shapes am I going to go with on that one, Kayla? For number 1, is it going to be shape A, B, C, or D? C. Down and right. And that's option C. So it's going to look something like that. Okay? And it's not uncommon, you guys, also, for people to do this, like when they're drawing these, to try to bend it back up a little bit. But don't do that, because they only go in those directions that we said, down and right. As soon as you do this, you're making it come back up again. It doesn't do that. Square root functions, they go down. If they're going down and right, that's all they're going to do is down and right. They won't bend back up or anything like that. I know it looks like it's about to, but it won't. It just keeps going down and right. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. Natalie, what's our starting point on number 2? Negative 5 and what? 0. Good. So we're starting here. And Rowan, we're going up and left. So which shape do I use over there? A, B, C, or D? Which one? Oh, I'm sorry, your voice. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. Goes this way. That's right. B is what she said. All right. We're getting there. Let's do another one here. Danielle, how about the last one? What's our starting point on the last one? 0, 1, which is here. All right. And Javier, we're going down and left. So which one is that? D as in dog, right? Okay. So there's your graphs. We're going to talk about cube roots. Now, I think now that you guys know how to do this, the cube root one's going to be pretty easy, but we'll do one just in case, because the only thing that's different is the shape, but you'll see even that's kind of similar, right? So let's go ahead and jump into a cube root one. So part B. Graphing cube roots. Okay? Graphing cube roots. It's going to be very similar. Okay, we're still gonna do this. The equations are going to look different though, because you're going to have a little 3 right there. So when you see that 3, we're not graphing square roots anymore. Now we're graphing cube roots. So that's the main difference, is that little 3. So when you see that 3, that's a game changer. It will change the way your graph looks. This is still going to be our starting point.
So wait.
Is the line just going to be straight? This time it's like
It's not straight, no. I'll show you. A little bit different. And I'm still going to go by the same rule. I'm still going to say, you know, plus A is up, minus A is down.
Wait. Is it still going to be changing the sign?
Yep. Plus B is right, negative B is left. So almost everything's identical, but really the shape is different. So here's the deal. This is true for us. We're going to follow that pattern, but after we're done, we're going to add a tail on it so to complete the picture. Because remember when we did our warm-up today, remember how the cube root looked exactly like the square root? It's just that it had an extra half to it. So we're just going to graph it like we would graph a square root, and then when we're all done, we're going to add the other half, just using symmetry. It's going to be symmetrical. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean by that. But really your cube roots are really only going to have one of two shapes. So you guys remember how we had this up and right? We had up and left. We had down and right, down and left, right? Well, here's what's different about cube roots. With cube roots, they have a tail.
It's kind of like the opposite.
Yeah. You rotate it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm smart. Just tell me just didn't practice.
Oh, thank you for telling me. Oh, yes, I am. It's good.
Oh man, just tell me just didn't practice already. I got it.
So here's the deal. This is, look at your starting point now. Your starting point's like in the middle of where those two pieces connect, so to speak. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to graph it just like we did the square roots, and when I'm all done, I'm going to add the tail. Okay? We'll see if that helps. You guys ready? Yeah, I'll pop. Here we go. Example 1. Example, what am I on now? 2?
Yeah. Yes, too.
Not in that way.
You guys ready?
Did you just talk to yourself?
All right, what's my starting point?
4, -1. Oh wait, no, -4.
Okay. Now let's just pretend it's a square root here for a second, okay? I'm going to go which way? Down
Down and right.
and right. So that means it looks like this, right? Good. But since it's a cube root,
Mr. Bailey,
throw in another half there.
one question.
Yeah.
Is that negative or can it still be another one?
Yeah. That's it, guys. That's the only difference, is that you're going to add a tail. Everything else is the same. The question is, can you add the tail?
Ew. The question is, can you have a try?
No.
Okay. Want to get?
Hang on, hang on.
Sure. It's there. It's there. I'm just going to put another one up for you.
That's another one?
Yeah. See how you guys do. I'll give you a second. See if you guys can graph that one. Heidi,
Dude, you should give.
what's my starting point?
-2.
And 0. Okay? Okay. So, Nathaniel, up or down? Left or right? So up and left would look like that, right? But don't
That's forget the tail. I like it.
forget the tail, because it's a cube root.
I was telling him what to do.
I like it.
He wasn't doing it loud enough.
Like, especially mine.
So I was going to be
All
like
right.
a little echo. Like a
Now,
little
guys,
I appreciate it.
hold on a minute.
This almost got 3,000. Stand behind this.
Tomorrow, you guys have your test on square root functions, and your study guide's uploaded.
What?
You're not hiding behind
Mr. Bailey, what did I tell
It's
you?
retarded, that's why.
What did I tell you? I said it wasn't going to be here.
It's the last. Do you want me to go after school with a bad thought of you in my head? Because I will.
Actually, can I make it up later?
All right,
Put the
but
board back
hey,
up.
real quick,
Wait. What if we make
your
another bet?
homework is the study guide, of which I've already got a video uploaded for you. If you want help, you can look on that
That's
video.
why it says test practice. You have a video?
You have to do all the ones that I do in the video. Yeah, it's like I'll put on the Google Classrooms which ones you have to do.
I can't believe you, man.
But you can do them all for extra points if you want.
Alright. Well, this is the last one we have to do, right?
That's it. We're done for the day.
Oh,
Shame on you.
Can I get a high five?
I mean, you know you said you were hot?
Yes, I will. Thank
I
you.
had an extra shirt in my
Miss Bailey, can I get a high five?
So is
Just
the test
you're
only on
not
this?
getting the homework until I get back.
Hey, Mr. Bailey, is the test only on this?
You let me know.
I could change that.
So do your homework. Study guide.
Eric,
Mr. Bailey.
Don't skip your homework tonight. Do your homework. It's a study guide for your test.
You can't see what I'm doing, but just saying.
Have a good one.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes, sir.
So I just realized actually just like
Hold on.
you didn't read this. That was my study guide.
You test?
Yeah. Other than I don't know. Alright, I don't know which one.
We're good.
One of my things.
Got you. I'll take care of it.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. Javier needs 6.2 video. What's up, Miss Heidi? Yes, thank you for reminding me.